Statistics Canada yesterday released the April inflation numbers, and for the first time since June of last year, that number moved up. So since June of 2022, we have had 10 months. 9 of those months, inflation has moved downwards. This past month, it tipped in at 4.4%, headline inflation that is, up from March's 4.3%. And that sent journalists and economists and headlines into hyperbolic stratosphere, suggesting there's a lot more increased pressure on the Bank of Canada to raise interest rates further to quell this surge in inflation. And I think it's important to zoom out a little bit here, right? 9 of 10 months with the downward trend, that's pretty good. It should never be expected that inflation was going to decline in a linear fashion consistently throughout, right? We're always going to deviate from that trend here and there depending on outside circumstance. And the big things that pushed inflation up this time were mortgage interest costs, surprise, surprise, are weighing in at approximately 1% of that 4.4% figure. And another big piece of it was gas prices, which have already eased off this month. So now interest costs are obviously propped up by higher interest rates. So we're kind of fighting against ourselves on rate policy here, but I digress. What I wanted to present was perhaps the case that this is actually good news for the Bank of Canada. Perhaps it's actually reason for them to sustain a pause, because what is almost as good as a rate hike? It's the credible threat of a rate hike. And what the Bank of Canada has here now is a credible threat to stand at their pulpit and say, hey, listen, we are prepared to raise rates further if this trend continues, and we will all pay attention because we just saw those inflation numbers edge upwards. And that will probably cause us collectively to adjust our spending habits. Now, I don't think the Bank of Canada wants to raise interest rates, as they know, and we've all been told that interest rates take 12 to 18 months to take their full effect. And if we wind the clock back 12 to 18 months ago, we'd only seen a cumulative total of 0.75% increase to the overnight rate. What's about to come of age and hit that 12-month window, so what happened 8 to 11 months ago, is another 2.25 points that were added to the overnight rate. So that 2.25 points is about to bear its full weight on our economy. And we're already starting to see headlines come out. Last week in the Globe and Mail, Canadian Tire posted an article. They keep in mind they have credit cards and they monitor spending data in addition to their stores. Their discretionary spending has suggested consumers have adjusted their preferences. In addition, Home Depot this week in Bloomberg announced that they're slashing their profit and sales forecast for this year, which is significant. I think we're going to start to see more of those headlines. So all in, the Bank of Canada is aware that we're about to see a little bit more increase pressure from their past rate hikes, and we're already starting to see spending suffer or strain to some extent. So adding more fuel to this fire, I'm not sure is the answer, but having that credible threat that they could, I think that's a nice little solution. So, right, they've got their hammer, which is the rate hikes. They've got some fine tuning when it comes to quantitative easing and tightening. And they also have their dialogue, right? And all of us are watching with bated breath to see what words they use and what they're going to do going forward. So perhaps this increase in inflation is a bit of a godsend to them. And I'll be interested to see. I suspect their language will be a little bit stronger at the next meeting as a result of this. And because of this, we will all take a little bit extra notice and probably adjust our behavior accordingly. So keep in mind, something to watch. Take care out there.